All right, well, I'm so excited to have you all here today. I've worked with all of you actually over an extended period of time through courses and the collaborative and the institute. We've been kind of interacting, which has been amazing to see each of your journeys and kind of where you're at now. So thanks for joining me and traveling around the world to be here. It's exciting. So today I really wanted to talk with you guys about leading change when we're working with teachers who are less experienced with any kind of concept-based, who are coming from a more traditional curriculum approach, and what that can look like, what strategies you've used, where you're at in that journey. So Grace, you've been working with some more traditional Korean schools who are not necessarily coming from an IB background. Some are, but some aren't. So what have you done to help establish an understanding of concepts and conceptual relationships?
Right. The Korean teachers I have been working with, they are rather a very elite group in the country, very proud and want to be perfect, want to know everything before they put it into practice. So it was very hard challenge to get their thinking out and visible, but now they enjoy the process of actually exchanging the feedback and having me not coming from the same background. That means like not sharing the same history of like discouragement or failure of this and that, and me just like, whoo, I have this story of success and I had fun with this, and they're like, wow, who are you?
Yeah.
And just working with like wows, and also me not coming from really academic background, speaking more teacher language, and also compacting into more bite sizes the ideas I had to deliver. They're receiving really like responding well. Yeah, so I emphasized the clarity of all the language they use, because they try to be very implying or very ambiguous. Because of all that, the characteristics of the language, the Korean language that has got Chinese script involved. Also, they're not quite used to working together.
Interesting.
Working on a unit, checking each other's understandings and challenging their understandings. So I really like.
Is there a disconnect in terms of, is challenge seen as conflict that wants to be avoided?
I think it goes with that, the pride and the elite-ness of the group. Like they want to look like they know well, they understand well, but when checking through things, they display misconceptions or uncertainty of their knowledge. So that kind of ping pong of all the ideas and understandings have been a challenge, big challenge for them. But you need to expose them to the space like that, and just make them feel comfortable and feel safe. So what I try to remember all the time is to stay effective, and as I said in the morning, not really getting involved with their kind of emotions, worrying emotions or negative feelings. Just stay effective, knowing their goal, the end goals, and just scaffold all the steps and try to be supportive, having a certain distance. Yeah, I've been trying to be very skillful with them. So Yeah, I think to a certain degree it has worked quite well. And the design of the workshop works pretty awesome.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Good.
it works fantastic. And I can slowly add model lessons to show them the practical side of it.
Oh, I love that. I think the model lessons are really important for teachers to be able to understand a concept-based approach, to be able to experience it, especially if it is something that's kind of a bit further removed from what teachers are used to doing, to combine that professional learning where they are designing a unit and then where they're experiencing a taught lesson. It's a really powerful.
Yeah, and it's convincing both parties. Myself as an instructor, but also the teacher group. They know,
This is why we're doing it this way. Yeah.
Listening in awe. You're doing so many good things with those teachers and trying to get them out of a comfort zone they're used to and the box they're working.
Yeah, it's been great for me, like personally and professionally. Very rewarding.
So you were working as an educational consultant before you did the CBI trainer certification. How has the trainer certification changed your focus of your work or the work that you're doing?
Well, you know, having this teaching background, like of working at international schools, including IB experience, could look like a very fancy, like fancy looking career person in Korea. But to confess, I didn't really feel strong enough to have all those experiences and titles. I've got a lot of titles, IB related.
Well, congratulations.
But until the CBCI kicked in, and everything just like made sense. And then I really wanted to work.
Then you
as a leader. Before, I ran away from all that leadership opportunities.
Ah, interesting.
It didn't seem very real to me, but now I want to do more and more, and that's why I'm here. Networking.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's given you the confidence to step out and go.
So powerful, the way the strategies are put together, and the session by session, how the top coaches design all the activities to get the thinking out. So effective. Like I've never worked with material like that before.
Well, we're excited that people like you can then go and take that into other languages and share that with all the teachers in Korea. And like, as somebody who understands culture, understands the language, can communicate in the language. So that is part of the point of the Certification Institute, is to be able to give you the confidence to continue to build. So we're excited that you're doing that.
I'm having fun at the moment.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that. So, Sara, you're working in an American curriculum school in London, but it's not an IB school, and you're leading your team or department in building an understanding of how concepts can support and elevate your curriculum. What's that been like?
Yeah, so when I came into the school and came into, it's sort of a divide in the middle school of like 5th and 6th grade kind of have a traditional use of textbooks, and the content is what's driving the learning, and 7th and 8th grade had kind of already layered onto their content some concepts that were kind of like one concept or across a semester, or maybe 3, like 1 per unit was sort of how it was structured. And we also had inquiry training coming in, which is kind of what led me to this work, because it wasn't all clicking and really meshing, and it wasn't working for students. I wasn't seeing the transfer kind of happen. And so after taking the first course, I started to apply the learning into the development of my own units and working through that and doing it with my teaching partner, kind of pulling them along without having done the course. Hey, can we do it this way? And that's been great, because now the two of us can sort of role model this work. We can show what it looks like, and then we've also just added new standards to our curriculum at the end of last year. And so this year I've been working 5 to 12 with all of the social studies teachers and trying, I mean, we're starting small. We're trying to shift the mindset away from just history content being the focus to bridging out to like, let's get concepts, let's get things that can transfer, let's get things that will help students to be able to hang their coat, you know, onto different ideas instead of just memorizing something that's gonna, that they might learn it and they might be really interested in it, and that would be great for some, but it's not necessarily getting at everything for every student because they may not find that topic or content really boring. And so trying to reach every kid through the case studies and the way we structure things. So some of the meetings this year have been sort of working to build our understanding. So using some of the things like the four-corner debate and being able to say, like, what are our foundational beliefs about social studies and how we should teach it, you know?
So you've been doing that in your staff meetings?
Yeah.
Cool.
And trying to get, and so one of them we also did as a Google survey, and it was, you know, rate on a scale how important you think these statements are. We wrote them like generalizations and then introduced them, talked about them through the meeting, and then at the end, rate how well you are doing this in your classroom, you know, and it's that some of the ideas around teaching content for that purpose of kind of just learning about that one thing in history, or learning about history and the world as it is today, and being able to have trends and patterns that you're noticing. And then we took that data and showed it to them in the next meeting. Okay, this is what you said you believed students should be getting in a class. This is what you said you're doing. So like, how do we bridge this gap now? And so starting to introduce it that way, and it's sort of in the baby steps now of building towards that. And I'm excited to finish the Institute and have the training that you're talking about, to be able to bring that into them as well, and start to grow it through whatever steps we can into the whole program, and then hopefully.
Are the team on board?
It's about half and half. Not everybody, but there are people who see we need something different. This isn't quite working, and so it's great that we have that buy-in from some. But then we have some who are like, no, they really need to understand and know these facts about Rome, or these facts about, you know, whatever the thing is that they love teaching, and so then having question and answer sort of sessions with them, and just helping to, you know, drill down to why do they need to know that? Well, if they're going to stand in a political conversation, they need to have the presidents of the United States memorized. And I'm like, but why? You know, and just kind of trying to, is this actually something you think students need, or is this something that you are just interested in? And how do we make curriculum that accesses students' interest across many things instead of just the thing their teacher might be interested in, and teaching them the skills in a social studies class for how to access any kind of research and know how to do those different research skills, so they might, you know, get tasters of different parts of history. We can't teach all of it. Yes. It's too much. And so letting them have a taste of it, and then being able to have the skills to go deeper into the things they're interested in, and know how to find reliable sources and how to think about things critically and evaluate and all of that. So it's a process, but it's rewarding.
And I do think it is a different process for working with teachers when they haven't had the requirement of developing central ideas or statements of inquiry through the IB programs, to go in and work with teachers who the idea of concepts is new. And that, what you described of like, we put one concept into each unit, is a really common kind of way to start, in terms of, we know concepts are important, but we're not quite sure what to do with them. Yeah. So let's pick some concepts. It doesn't necessarily change teaching when you pick those concepts, because then you just go, yeah, that concept kind of relates to the topic, and nothing more typically happens with it. But it's a start, and it's an opportunity for schools to, like you say, it led you then to this body of work, and to really kind of going down that path of going, well, what is the relevance of concepts in the curriculum?
Yeah. And it's interesting because in our unit planners and things that we have already, we have enduring understandings, which are generalizations, and we have our key questions or essential questions. And it's so different in the American system how you use those. It's you give the enduring understanding to the students most of the time, like at the start of the unit, here's what you're going to learn by the end. And so just even having conversations with people and trying to like, let's shift this. Why would we give them this in the start? Why don't we start with questions? And why are we limiting ourselves in the unit planner to 3 questions? Like how, you know, and so starting to even just get that mindset to shift, because then we can actually do this work and it makes sense, and they can you know, understand it and then see the value of it. And I hope, I'm like, as we continue the process, that we'll actually see the transfer. And I know we were talking about that earlier today. It's like, it's really something on my mind because I see the transfer lacking year to year. And I'm kind of like, if we can show you that this will work, like, then that will be buy-in, you know, if we can get it going. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's pretty exciting. And Saskia, you've been kind of in a completely different situation. You're head of a quite large PE department, or you were. And how did you introduce concepts kind of within and beyond that PE team?
All right. It's difficult, first of all, because you have so many people in one group. They all have their history, their backgrounds, the way they started teaching. So you can't barge in and go, hey, I have the holy grail of teaching and this is what we're going to do. And also I started with the course, just like Sara, the trainer course, and hoping to finish it. So I was sort of growing with them. So we started and everybody was on their island teaching, and they were doing an amazing job, being amazing teachers. And then at some point I realized one of my colleagues walking in and was complaining about the wind and how it affected his Frisbee unit. And the Frisbee was flying everywhere. And then I was sitting there and I realized, I asked him the question, but what would you like your students to walk away with from your Frisbee unit? What would you like for them to understand or know or have learned from you? And he started talking and I'm like, oh, this is a great opportunity. So in the beginning it was just these accidental moments where people would walk in and you could ask them this one question, or you could help them think into a certain direction. Like, what would you like to achieve with your Frisbee unit? Okay, now what kind of other solution can you come up with to still teach what you would like to? Because he was mentioning concepts like passing, receiving, movement, communication in the field. And what can you still do to teach them that, even though it's not within Frisbee? And that was one start with a colleague. And of course there's multiple people in our office. It's inevitable, big group of people. So they hear that, they start thinking. And then I shared a unit that I made for the trainer course with them and said, listen, this is something to look at, and I think it's valuable. Now this is a whole product and I know it's kind of overwhelming. If you look at it, do you see yourself asking your students some questions to trigger? Like, why stick handling in hockey? Why is it important? What do you want to do with the stick handling? Then you get those enthusiastic people, you know, like the people that get on board. They're like, oh, I like what's going on here. And you start working with them. They walk in, they start asking questions. And in little horizontal meetings that we have, like horizontal grade level meetings within our department, we would sit there and then I would give them a little warm-up teaser, like a Freyer model or a four-corner debate or non-examples and examples. And we would just go through it and you could see them, and I would ask them, like, I want you to pick one of these and use one of these in one of your classes or lessons that you're going to teach the coming week. So it was all about slowly but surely getting them on board and allowing them to move at their own speed. Because the ones that were really motivated or really triggered by it would come and ask questions. And then I could show them the inquiry and action book. which is amazing. And just had them say, I would tell them, just go through it and see something you like and that you can use in your classes. And lucky also, we could develop everything from scratch. It was a new school, we had to develop our own strengths. So we could talk about, besides hockey and basketball and all the standard things that you teach in PE, what are the next level, what are the concepts? And that was the first time that I introduced that word into a PE department. And you can see people getting into it and being triggered by it. And then when I thought people were ready, I offered, which was good for me, a test run of the workshop.
Oh, fantastic! You did a model lesson.
Yes, exactly. So they came in, and not everybody. Again, voluntary base. If you want to and you're ready, or you're still, curious, you can walk in and join. And I not only had, and that started going around. So besides some of my PE team people walking in, I had some colleagues coming in as well from completely different either subjects or homeroom teachers. So in the end, it was a group of about 20 people that followed that workshop. Yeah. And you could see they walked out and they were like, oh, this is what it's all about, and this is why and how and the intent. And I think that flow, that natural a flow of getting into experiencing it yourself, that is what, and that's what you said as well, the modeling, the lessons that we follow in the course, the what the specialists are helping us to see in the trainer course, those are eye-openers. And then people start going like, how can I learn more about this, and where do I go? And well, because you can ask me, but I can also refer you to, and then from there it starts growing, and that was in this school, that was my previous school, that was an amazing opportunity because there was nothing there, so it really felt like they were part of the whole developing process and that kind of stuff, whereas in the future, the new school is an IB school with a completely fixed MYP curriculum in place for PE, PHE. Yeah, so there, and with the other ones, well, you need to value what people have done already and their expertise and their input, because then you get people on board.
Yeah, it's exciting. There's actually a really common theme of like, start small. Start with a small group of people who are interested. You started just with your colleague, like, can we plan this together? You started a conversation with one colleague, and you've done workshops, but you've also worked with small groups of teachers and done one-on-one coaching to build this up. And I've genuinely seen over time that when we start with a small group who are interested and ready and excited to learn, that's when we can start to build momentum, because it doesn't actually end up the person who's initially driving it getting everyone else on board. It ends up the few people that you start with bring in more and say, hey, you want to learn about this too, or like your PE lesson that ended up with 20 teachers in there because they hear and they're like, I want to know more about that, I want to see that. And you both talked about, we used strategies that we want teachers using in the classroom, in our professional development, in our staff meetings, and you model lessons. And so I think when teachers are saying, but we're starting with teachers who've used to really traditional curriculum, they are not, concepts is completely new to them, where do we start? That's really powerful places to start. Start small, start with a small group, model strategies, start to ask those questions. What do you want your students to understand?
Yeah.
That's an incredibly powerful question to be asked as a teacher, and yet when you're first asked that, it's like, well, what do you mean? What do I want them to understand? All the things they have to know in the curriculum. But to actually spend time documenting and articulating what we want our students to understand, that's powerful, and that's actually really meaningful for teachers. And that's that shift from, we're planning because we have to document stuff, to, wow, this is actually helpful. Now I've got something that I can use to help teach my students with.
Yeah, it's really powerful.
Yeah.
So for that reason, at the beginning, not trying to put a lot and deliver a lot. Just do very few but impactful. Leave them some strong impression rather than like I'm gonna give you a lot today. Like, no, it doesn't work. Just one or two really powerful ones, and then they mark it for you.
Yeah, well, like Saskia was saying, I just want you to try it. We've talked about a few strategies. Just try one this week and see what happens.
See what happens. Yeah, and then also highlighting when you accidentally walk in and you recognize somebody doing something you asked them to do, right? Like a colleague all of a sudden just passing a class. Hear this colleague go, yes, but what is collaboration? What does it look like? What do you see when this is... Yes, questions, very good. Where normally people would just give them the definition, or I would like for you to do this, or I would like to see you do this. And here, the student is triggered. Like, what do you think I want to see from you? That's amazing. And when you hear that, when you see that, and giving people the compliments, like, yeah, high five, that was amazing, and we're getting there, and the enjoyment they get from that as well, because your students get more involved. They start thinking, they start getting motivated to give you answers or investigate the trajectory of all the balls that are in the gym, something like that.
As teachers, who doesn't want students who are more engaged and more involved and loving what they're learning? That's incredibly powerful. Well, thank you. That's been so insightful to just share quite different experiences, but with that common theme of where we start. How do we start when you so passionately believe in something, but nobody else around you knows what you're talking about? Where do you start to make a difference and to build some momentum and get some traction? So I'm excited to continue to watch your journeys as you continue to share this with others. So, thank you.
Thank you.